Welcome, everybody. We always have fun with this book to biz because there are so many wonderful books out there. And I don't know about you, but I don't get a chance to read them all or listen to all of them. But even if I read it or listen to it, I find that the good ideas come and then they go. This using the books for ChatGPT, so, at any rate, and I always put that in my reminders, there's so many good ideas that float past us. And if we can just use ChatGPT to help us condense them and maybe put them in a plan or some specific to dos, that we can actually implement some of those great things. Maybe a lot of you have seen Moneyball. I haven't read the book, I did see the movie, and it was really inspirational and interesting. And so I thought that this would be a good one to pull a sports analogy in, even though we're going to apply it to business. I thought this quote was a fun one to be thinking about. And I'm going to go up and do my menu thing so that I can scroll. Let's see, it was view and then move on down to page display and down to enable scrolling. So thanks for being patient with me while I do that. Little side story is just before we were ready to come in, we found out that our website was down. So that created a little 10-minute panic attack. So it's back up. Everything's running properly. Just a hair behind here. So our resources for a free version of ChatGPT, most of you guys are used to this, but we're going to give you a file that you can download this particular set of slides. And so if you need to copy and paste this in, you can do that after you get this download of slides. And then we're going to be putting another file out there for you for today's prompt that you'll be using. You can grab it, download it, look at it, use it, but just kind of wait and we'll all jump in at the same time. So we've got our pictures here for how you go out and grab that file and download it and also open it. So then I like to go through this. You know what? I've sat through presentations where I've heard the same thing 15 times, and all of a sudden one day it dawns on me and I go, oh, okay, now I get it. AI is happening now. It's here. It's moving rapidly. There have been changes. We now have, for instance, we now have 4.5 out in ChatGPT, and they keep throwing in. We've got deep research out there as well. Laura and I went out and played with that the other day. So lots of things going on in ChatGPT land and other AI programs. Employees who do know how to use ChatGPT are going to be able to help their employers become more highly valued. People who don't know how to use it are going to be left behind. I think the parallel is when computers came along. I remember lots of people that said, "Hey, I don't need a computer. Who needs that? We've got a filing system and we're good." And of course, things changed. Everybody now is living with their computers. And success is less about what you know, it's about what you can do. And you can do so much with AI that you can become very successful. Now, that's a little bit of a threat to people who had to spend years getting to a certain position, and now somebody else can come along and just type something in and have it spit out. So if they're smart enough to be using AI, then they're ahead of the game and they might be coming up right behind you without you realizing it. Although we do propose that it is AI plus humans, and so your life experience and the other things that you've learned have not gone to waste. You will be able to filter and modify what you see from ChatGPT or whatever AI program you're using. So you are still essential to the process. The financial perspective, of course, has all to do with working faster, smarter, more efficiently, more effectively, more productively. And whether it's for yourself, for your company, or for your clients, it is really, you're going to find this to be very valuable for you as you move through your day-to-day life. We are recording. Recordings will be available in 5 to 7 business days. We've been running Thursday, Friday of the week after this Friday presentation. And if you aren't on our mailing list, I'm sure you are. If you're here, you are, and we'll let you know when those recordings become available. Late arrivals will close the doors to the workshop when we first share files to download, which is usually 10 to 12 minutes after we start. Looks like we're right on time, and that prevents interruptions for people who do show up on time. Those who show up on time, it gives you time to download and get those other files open and so on. And of course, remember how to handle confidential information. And if you're uncomfortable putting something confidential into ChatGPT, then you could put pretend information in there. However, in most cases, we find that we like to work on our work. And that's what I did in today's chat too. I put our own information in. Just decide what you want to have in going into the chat GPT and make sure that you don't share something you shouldn't. Breakout sessions, you're going to see a timer on your screen that's going to show how long is left when we go into your breakout session. And then there's a short delay before you rejoin the main Zoom meeting. So your screen will go black. You'll think we kicked you out, but we didn't. You'll come back in a minute or two. The breakout sessions are not recorded, by the way, so be sure you take your notes while you're in there. And I always like to just say, how did I get involved in AI? I just started exploring over a year ago. I got hooked, and then I joined this simple AI consultants group with over 100 AI focused consultants. And we share AI training and creative applications and so on. We have some great training options available for you, some free and paid. They're doing a few shifts in the program right now. So I'll know a little bit more in a week about exactly what I could give away that's free and exactly what's paid. Is one of the people that I work with said, we're in a fast moving industry right now, and the guy that's the head of Simple is a fast moving guy. So things can shift underneath me on a regular basis, but I'm still going to be willing to share those kinds of things with you. But the big thing in Simple is that I learned that you can use ChatGPT for every role within every organization. So it's not niche or industry specific, it's not position specific. So today's workshop, the flow is that we're going to download and save this PDF slide deck from the Zoom chat. So if anybody came in just a little bit later, maybe my co-hosts, and I want to say thank you to Rachel Foster, one of the two co-hosts, and Laura Bell, who's our COO, another co-host. And Laura's going to be talking a little bit. Oh, they're getting claps too. All this wouldn't happen without them being there in the background. And Laura's going to add some extra information as she went through and ran her. She got a head start. She put her prompt in ahead of time and learned some things that she'll share with you as we get towards the end of our session today. Okay, so then you're going to download and copy today's book overview and prompt into your ChatGPT. We recommend using 4.0, although you're going to find some recommendations in there about the reasoning ChatGPT. That'll be interesting. That's what Laura's going to be talking about. And some examples and idea starters. For today, you're just going to go with the flow. You're not going to come in with a specific goal in mind, as you typically do with AI. And we're just going to let what some of the things that are in the book help us move in a specific direction with our business. And so Moneyball is a data-oriented book, and a lot of the people that I see in here to me look as though you probably have access to data, but maybe your clients don't if you're working with them. So not everybody has tons of data, but this exercise is designed to show you where AI can help you start. And you don't need to be an analyst. You just bring your questions and your curiosity. And what's going to happen is that ChatGPT is going to select a chapter out of Moneyball on your behalf, and you'll get to see where it takes you. So you can also rerun your prompt later and ask it to address a different chapter if you'd like. So kind of fun that you've got it guiding you through the process. So we'll spend about 12 minutes to work with your individual results. You guys work together, and then we'll break out to collaborate and discuss our results. And we do have a reflection screen, and you're going to get some reflections to work with in your output today. And so, one of the tips that I could provide is don't spend a huge amount of time reading the condensed information it gives you, but take some time and look at the reflections that it offers you to be working on. And then we'll discuss our results with our group takeaways, and then we'll do the AI tips, which we always do right towards the end. So, our 12 minutes of library time, you're going to copy, Control C. A lot of times I do a Control A first, so it grabs everything. Copy and then paste the prompt from the text file. Fill in the information that's requested. If there are brackets, you'll see that there are brackets in this one. Go fill that in and then hit enter after you're done entering that information. And then you can submit and review your results, and results might not be perfect. If you don't like what you're seeing, ask it to modify it, okay? Or if you have questions, ask it to modify it. So mute yourself, and as you work, you can place any questions in the Zoom chat window. If you don't get done, it's okay. This is not a test, it's an exploration. And go have fun. I'll show you over here on the chat. I'm going to pull the chat in, and you'll notice here we have steps set up. And then this is a spot where you insert your role, your company type, your company size, and that's going to influence what happens within the chat. And those are the only few things that you have available that you have to fill in, but fairly short chat. And let's get started. Any questions? I'll start the timer. Give me a second. And I'll mute myself and turn off my video. Have fun.
And as a heads up to everyone, we've got just under a minute left before we get back from the library.
Yes. Is everybody packing up their books in their backpack and scurrying off to class?
Been there, done that.
Yep. Okay, there's the end of our timer. Yeah, I think we're doing pretty well here. The next thing we're going to do is we will share in breakout rooms. And while you guys are sharing in your breakout room, I'll be doing a recording in the background with Laura and Rachel. But you guys can go ahead and talk among yourselves and share ideas. And we do have this reflections screen that you may just want to take a screenshot, some ideas to help you think through what you may want to be talking about as you work back and forth or whatever you feel like. Get to know each other. Rachel is going to put us into breakout rooms.
Here we go. And somebody take notes in your group.
Yes, thank you. And you do have to accept being put into a breakout room. Yep. Okay, I'm going to pull up a Word document with our results, and I'll cover up some of these other things. And I just put the input. I put it in italics, so what we put in ChatGPT. And I put this over into Word because I had done some other things around the edges to help get that prompt together today. So I thought, no, I'm just going to pull out the one that I ran for us. And so it started out, gave us an overview of Moneyball and the chapter framework, just said what was being covered within the individual chapters. And I think everybody should have gotten pretty much the same thing, although we never get exactly the same thing when we put information into ChatGPT. I can put the same prompt in two different times and get slightly different answers or majorly different answers depending upon what it is that you're working on. So then I went ahead and provided my role and so on. And I filled that in, my role, my company size, the background about how we're adding AI training and tools to the things that we offer, the services that we offer, because it offers us an opportunity to broaden our client base and add profit enhancement opportunities and further coaching services for our clients. And I gave it where my personal bio was located. And then it repeats it back to me. I'm going, that's kind of like a good friend. They listen to you and kind of repeat back what they heard. So this lets us check and make sure. And then the chapter that it selected for me was chapter 8, the AI powered future of decision making. And it's giving me some background as to why it chose that on my behalf. And it says now, as you evolve your business model to include AI, you're creating a multiplier effect, bringing your clients into the future while enhancing your own positioning and profitability. It's talking to me. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. They're giving me a chapter summary. The prompt had said, spend 1,000 words on this concept, why this particular chapter would apply to me. And I highlighted this in yellow because I'm going, ooh, I like these words. It says, as a CEO guiding a boutique consulting firm. Now, I had never thought of us as a boutique consulting firm, but we specialize in certain things. But now we're adding in AI, which makes us that combination of those things. I'm going, ooh, I like this phrase. I'm going to remember this for some marketing. You now have the opportunity to democratize insight, speed, decision making, and help your clients build smarter, more adaptive businesses, no matter their size or data maturity. I'm going, wow, I'm loving all this. So this was, I hadn't expected those wonderful words, but I'm going to be using those. And then it says chatbot AI as your assistant, researcher, and educator, all rolled into one. And use cases, it gives me some examples, drafting clear outlines for labor burden cost modeling outline. I do have a product, a labor burden product that I have already developed. So it's nice to know that we're thinking in the same direction. Compiling FAQs and onboarding materials for AI training. And we're going to be developing those as we move forward. Quickly organizing client performance data from worksheets or estimates, creating AI-driven client dashboards and reports based on known cost structures. And as I ran a role model for somebody that I was talking to, that was exactly what she was interested in doing, was setting up that type of circumstance. And I was looking at it going, yeah, that looks like a really good idea. So we could roll that in as part of our consulting features. And here's, you might ask, create a draft job description for cost analysts, or help a client ask, summarize our historical job profitability by project type using the spreadsheet as input. Because we can, if you have your QuickBooks structured in the right way, then you're going to be able to extract data and do more analytical work. And so these things really work together, having a good underlying financial structure as well as using AI to help analyze some of that. So reasoning AI, this is my strategic co-pilot. A couple times I have put in my metaphor as being both a pilot and an air traffic controller to keep everything running and also flying the plane. It's saying this is your strategic co-pilot, your digital version of a seasoned consultant. Here it's talking about how we can use some math, things that were applicable. I know that they were using math and statistics and data and so on in Moneyball to make a big change in the team. And so it's giving us some of these ideas. Then it's telling me things that I might ask. Or for a client, how could we convert that to a client? And then if somebody is starting, our clients are starting with limited data, it gives us some ideas about how to get them kicked off to at least understand some of the things that they could be doing with their job costing. Encourage them with quick wins. And then reflection questions for me is, what kinds of decisions are you currently making based on intuition that AI could help clarify or validate? And that was really, as I remember in the movie, the whole thing was on the front end, all they were selecting ball players based on intuition, going, yeah, well, he's got the swing, he's got the height, he's got the swagger, whatever it was that they were looking for, whatever the coaches were looking for. It was all intuition based. It wasn't fact based. And when they started working in facts, it made a big difference. And then how could AI help you scale your advisory and training services without significantly increasing overhead? So these are all reflection questions that I haven't taken the time to really think my way all the way through, and or there are things that lots of times are floating, free floating anxiety, maybe, if you want to call it free floating anxiety, or things that are floating in the brain on a regular basis, but having a structure to say, sit down and think about this and come up with some answers can be very helpful. So that's the way it turned out for us. And Laura, any comments on any of this?
Yes. When I input the prompt, it gave me the output a little bit different looking than yours. And it included, when it was describing the 8 different chapters, it gave a high level overview of the chapter idea. And then it told me about a business concept, narrowed down the business concept as related to the chapter, and then an AI application as related to the chapter. And it mentioned, because we have in the prompt, it talks about chat bot AI and reasoning AI. On some of the chapters, it split those out. It said, oh, okay, chat bot AI can help here, reasoning AI can help there. On some of the chapters, it just was generic or general and said, AI can help you in this way. And then I thought that was quite interesting.
And then, yeah, and so there's that example of how it can come out differently because mine didn't do that. It just gave me, it just said AI all the way through. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
do any differentiation.
And because I had that question, I actually ended up with the question and I went, oh, chatbot AI versus reasoning AI. That is probably a concept that's out there that many people are familiar with, but I wasn't. So I went back and said, tell me more, give me a definition of what chatbot AI is versus reasoning AI. Give me some examples of what that means. And then, because we use ChatGPT most often, I said, and tell me which flavors and versions of ChatGPT correspond to a chatbot AI versus reasoning AI. And that was very helpful to me as I went forward. I did get the reflective questions. I did get the recommendations on which chapter it thought might apply most to my role. And I thought it was also really interesting because it says, here's how chatbot AI and reasoning AI can help. But it also gave me a different category. And it says low tech ways to start collecting data because it mentioned KPIs. So I thought that was quite interesting.
So Laura, I might ask you to repeat that when the group comes, that part, when the group gets back together again, so they don't
Sure.
miss that.
I'll
And
recap it more quickly.
yeah. And Laura just, yeah, we were skimming through it, and Laura knows me. We know each other about as well as two people could, given that we are sisters. And do you think, Laura, the things that you saw as I skimmed through it seem pretty applicable to
I do.
our
I do.
company and things to be thinking on and things we can do and
Very
uh,
applicable.
ways to approach people that may not have a lot of data right at their fingertips?
Yes, I
Nobody
do.
has enough data sometimes. I
Mm,
think you may have some pieces of data, but there's always more to be learned.
indeed.
So good. So we'll be able to welcome people back in. Okay, terrific. So we've got these reflections up, but of course you don't necessarily have to jump in. Do we have two groups today? So can we get a volunteer from one of the groups?
And I'll warn you that I know who was in each group.
You guys know which groups. Oh, so you're going to call you. Are you going to voluntold somebody, Rachel? Or
I'm just letting them know that is a possibility.
okay.
I'll go for group one and kind of introduce us a little bit. I was with Michelle and Shai, and we talked quite a bit about the depth that you can go after you run this particular prompt and directing into answering the questions that you have that didn't come through in the responses from the prompt to begin with. The challenges or barriers that come up tie in with time, but also learning how to ask the right questions. And that's where the AI training comes to play. Because knowing that, okay, this system just told me what to do, but being able to ask further questions, such as creating spreadsheets or creating tables or creating checklists or modifying a response, is super helpful. So that's where we were. And if Michelle or Shai wants to add anything to that, my feelings are not hurt at all. So feel free to speak up, okay?
I just
anything?
wanted to say, Lori introduced me to the different factors for the ChatGPT, which I was unaware of. So I just wanted to thank her personally. So
Great. Yeah, she has become a power user in our organization, and I just appreciate that she was so willing to jump in. And I remember on the very front end, I talked to her about it, and I'm going to tell a little story on Lori. She said, I like to write my own stuff. And I said, oh, okay, just maybe just try it out once. And then and I know she still writes a lot of her own stuff, but nevertheless, she's become a power user, and I know she uses it regularly because we have a spreadsheet where we track that kind of stuff. Thank you, Lori, for being open enough to move into something that was totally new at the time. Okay, who's in our other group? Can we get somebody to raise their hand or speak up? Just unmute yourself.
I guess I will, since they're
Okay.
being really quiet. We were amazed by all the detail that it gave. And one of the things going through on mine, of course, I put in about my bookkeeping and consulting and coaching. And one of the challenges I put in about was just bookkeeping. It said bookkeeping isn't just record keeping, it's data engineering for small business decisions. I'm definitely stealing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then gave me a bunch of next steps to come up with a client value scorecard, an AI enhanced services menu, financial analyst prompt library, because I put in that I've used ChatGPT to analyze financials and credit card statements for spending and stuff. And yeah, I think turn this into a project in ChatGPT and have different things underneath that to use it for my tools for the consulting part and the coaching part.
Yeah. And to expand on, and what chapter did it give you?
The find a bargain.
Okay. I don't recall which chapter number that was, but
I'm trying to find it again now. It says the second chapter.
okay. So the second chapter.
Yeah,
So you could go
yeah,
back in and say, do the same thing and say, but please put something together for me for chapter 3 or chapter 7 or
right.
whatever.
Because
I
it
think,
gave me a summary of all of them, so that's nice.
yeah, you could look back at that. So I'm gonna ask Pam to unmute. Sorry, I just muted you, so I'm asking you to unmute. You can unmute yourself, Pam. Which chapter did it tell you?
So interestingly, it did not give me a chapter for each.
Oh,
I gave it 3 different roles. So I think I
oh,
used
okay.
it.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So I think it couldn't pinpoint exactly which chapter, but it did give me the most interesting thing it gave me is how it broke down by role exactly what scorecards I should use for each one and how I can use AI in each one to optimize for different metrics, how to analyze them for each particular role. So I really love that I put it in a table, which was really nice. And what else was really cool? I think that was the coolest part for what I gave it. Everything else is a lot of data because I gave it all the roles I have. And I think it just was like, this is too much. So I'll just run it again with each role separately and see what comes back.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Is that because you have a lot of roles that you fulfill?
Yes.
You're a multifaceted role player.
I have 2 businesses and then I also have a coaching passion project that I do.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes with ChatGPT, I found that less is more. You narrow it down a little bit, it gives it a little bit of wiggle room to give you better information. So, who else was in that group?
Janice.
Janice, which chapter did you get?
I ran 2 scenarios and they both pointed me to chapter 4, Measuring What Matters. And with the second scenario, I chose a catering business and I asked it to suggest key performance indicators for me. And it came up with quite the list, like 20 of them. But there are some that I had not thought of that I thought was good. Implementing them, I could see could be a challenge. I do, like, for example, they suggested I track the waste, the food products. And I always think that's a good one to track. When I was in residential builder, we tracked the waste. We went dumpster diving and counted the number of full sheets of plywood and 2x4s, and we edited their takeoffs so that they didn't have so much waste anymore. So I like that idea. Interesting, but Michael said something that piqued my interest. Could you take a PDF of a credit card statement? Would it analyze that credit card statement to help you categorize it and just say, okay, overall, this is how you're spending some money?
Yes, you can do that, but what you would want to do is take the CSV of just the transactions and not
Okay.
put in the client information or the account number.
Okay, true. So just, so it would, because I do personal financial coaching for a nonprofit, and that would save a bunch of time. We use a bank app, but it's another way to save a lot of time and consolidate information.
Great. Yeah. So I wanted to save a little bit of time here for Laura to just briefly explain one of the things she discovered when she went through hers.
Okay, so when I went through mine, its output, when you go back and watch the video when we post it, my output looks a little bit different than Diane's does. But one of the things that I noticed was it used the terms chatbot AI and reasoning AI. So the reasoning AI went, okay, that's intuitive. I can figure out what that probably is. But the chatbot AI, I wanted a little bit better definition. So I asked ChatGPT to provide me with a definition of each of those terms, what each of those types of AI is strongest at doing. And because our company uses ChatGPT, I asked it to provide me the versions or flavors of ChatGPT that used chatbot AI versus the reasoning AI. So that was helpful to me as well. And I interjected that into the flow of the chat. And I just found that very interesting and helpful. And then I went on and asked it more questions about the information it had provided to me.
Quick question. Is the chatbot AI, does that create chatbots?
No, that's really the equivalent of ChatGPT 4.0 for right now. It's I'm asking a question, it provides me a quick answer. I'm asking, where can I find this? It comes back and tells me. So that's what the definition of the chatbot AI is. Let me see. So it gave me this definition. Chatbot AI refers to conversational AI systems designed to engage in dialogue with users. They excel at providing information, answering questions, offering customer support, and delivering interactive experiences. And then it gave me a list of key capabilities: responding to inquiries, providing recommendations, performing basic automation, handling frequently asked questions like customer service and Siri and Alexa. And the ChatGPT versions for that were GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. And then it gave me some examples. And then it said the reasoning AI, the definition was that the reasoning AI goes beyond conversational abilities by applying logic, problem-solving skills, and data analysis to provide deeper insights. It can interpret complex data, simulate scenarios, and offer predictive or prescriptive recommendations. Its key capabilities are solving complex business problems, performing data analysis and forecasting, evaluating multiple scenarios, etc. And the ChatGPT versions for that were the ChatGPT 4 with plugins, the ChatGPT with advanced data analysis, also known as code interpreter. So that question I just needed to have clarified before I went too much more deeply. Hopefully that was helpful. That set of definitions was helpful.
So
Yes,
these are the
thank you.
reasoning models, O1, O3, and O3 mini. Those are the primary reasoning. There's a 4O mini. Those are the reasoning, and they tell you they're reasoning models. And so that the scenario you were talking about, having it interpret what's on a bank statement, for instance, or on a financial statement, whatever. If you give it a picture, it can understand what it's seeing. And I'd say you might want to try it in both 4O and in the reasoning model. So I won't take up any more time telling you about my experiences with that. But yeah, interesting. Always good to try something in both scenarios.
And the
Okay.
tip on that is you have to remember if you're in one flavor and you ask for information and to switch back to the other flavor. So if you're in the reasoning model and it says, oh, use this prompt, remember to copy and paste that from the reasoning model into the regular 4.0 model. Otherwise it gets confused.
Yeah, just pay attention to where you are. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Janice.
How do you know what model you're in?
You choose it when you initially open up, and it should show it to you. Just a minute.
So mine says I'm in ChatGPT, but so right now I'm still using the free version.
I don't know how many choices you have in the free version, but if you go up and start a new chat, like up here,
Uh-huh. Okay.
okay, and then you hit the drop down, you get to choose.
Oh,
Okay.
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 And Janice, did you see where Diane hit the drop down there? Diane, would you do it again?
Right there.
I think in the free version you get what you get because I'm not getting that drop down.
You might not, yeah, you might
Yeah.
not get the others. I'll tell you what, I make not a cent off of promoting going to the paid model of ChatGPT at 20 a month, but it's going to be the best $20 a month you ever spent. I encourage everybody to go to the $20 a month version because it's pretty amazing. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So we're running a little bit behind today, but I appreciate everybody. This is fun to get this feedback and people talking about all their different applications. Yeah. So you guys who have been with me before, and if you haven't, this is the page where we say here all sorts of resources that I have developed over at buildyournumbers.com back when we were InfoPlus Accounting. Of course, we shifted over to InfoPlus Consulting when we started offering more AI and more advisory and so on. Yeah, so you'll have this. There are links you can go in and explore further. And our AI tips this time is just basically this is a repeat of what I put up on Tuesday. I like to put the tips in a second time to let them sink in. So if it might have flown past you if you were here on Tuesday, but ask ChatGPT. There are so many things you can ask it about. Clients, marketing, goals, sales, social, website, family, and that's just the beginning. Any issue, any problem, any question, just go ask it, see what you get. And sometimes a client might use a term that you're not terribly familiar with. Well, just go out and put it in and see what it says, and you'll get more educated every day. So, those are your AI tips for this week, and we will see you guys coming up on the next screen is looking ahead Tuesday, April 8th at 2 p.m. And it's going to be ChatGPT, your new help desk hero. And on Friday, we're going to look at predictably irrational, the hidden forces that shape our decisions, an entertaining look at human foibles. And I've got a little quote in here that Dan Ariely refutes the common assumption that we behave in fundamentally rational ways. I know we all feel like we're rational people, but from drinking coffee to losing weight, from buying a car to choosing a romantic partner, we consistently overpay, underestimate, and procrastinate. Yet these misguided behaviors are neither random nor senseless. They're systematic and predictable, making us predictably irrational. So I think that'll be a fun one. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us here today. And we'll keep moving forward on our journey with AI. And be sure to get in touch. I showed you my Calendly link. If you want to learn more about those options that will take you even deeper into getting the most out of AI, please set a short appointment and I can just let you know what those options are. Bye, everybody. Have a great
Thank
weekend.
you.
Bye.
Okay.
See you
You
next
too.
time.
Thanks, everybody, for joining and participating. We appreciate it.